Today's lesson is on proportions, which are SOL 7.4 study notes. And what a proportion is it is an equation stating that two ratios are equal. And so, for example, we can look 12/4 is equal to 9/3, or 3/4 is equal to 9/12. So they are proportional. And you can determine if two fractions are a proportion using their cross products. And what cross products are literally what they sound like. They're the products, which means multiplying, across. So are the following fractions proportional? Well, I'm going to reset them up so it's a little bit easier. We have 3/5 and 16/48. So to see if these are proportional, I'm literally going to multiply across, the cross products. I'm going to do 5 times 16, which gave me 80. And then I'm going to do 3 times 48, which gives me 144. And so we would say no, these are not proportional because they did not have the same numbers. To have been a proportion, we would have had to got the same numbers when we multiply on top. So these are not proportional. Now we can use proportions to find a missing piece of information. And to do that, it's what I always told you, to multiply and divide by the dot. So we literally look, we multiply wherever we have the two numbers. So we multiply our 5 and our 15, which gives us 75. And we divide by the other numbers. So 75 divided by 25. So 75 divided by 25 would give us 3. So x is equal to 3. So we can use that to find it. Now, the reality is you're probably not just going to get a problem as blank as this one, just the plain numbers. You're going to be giving the problem in word problem format. So let's go ahead and take a look at this problem together. Terry was looking at a map with the following scale indicator, that 1/2 inch is equal to 4 miles. Terry measured 2 3/8 inches between the two cities on the map. What is the distance between the two towns? Well, right away, if you're like me, you don't like fractions, so we're going to get rid of those fractions. We're going to use our calculator. Some of you, if you know them, great. If you don't, we're going to use our calculator to turn this fraction into a decimal. And to do that, I literally am going to do top 1 divided by our bottom number 2, and this is going to give me 0.5. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this fraction as well. I'm going to say 2, we're going to ignore the 2. We're going to take the fraction part. We're going to do 3 divided by 8. Now my calculator says 0.375, but I'm not going to keep the 0 because if you look over here, it's not a 0, it's a 2. So I'm going to put 2.375. And I now know that these down here, that 3/8 is also going to be 0.375. So that way I just don't have to deal with my fractions. So let's look at what is actually being compared. We need to set it. We have our 1/2 inch is compared to the 4 miles. And if you remember, this was a non-negotiable. You had to label your things, and I expect on the SOL that you label as well. So then we read the information we know. We know that Terry measured 2 3/8 inches. So I'm going to put that up here, and we've already turned it into a decimal, so it's in a form that we're more comfortable with. And then my unknown is the distance in miles, so that is my variable. And so once we have our proportion, we're ready to do our cross multiplying. So we're going to take our two numbers we know. We have our 4 times 2.375 That gave us 9.5 divided by a half, or the 0.5, and that gives us 19. So the distance in miles between the two towns would be 19 miles. And then the last thing we did with proportions was our tax, tip, and discount, where we know percent means out of 100, so we can set it up our proportion way, or we could set it up as, I know some of us just did the multiplying way. Either way is okay. So let's go ahead and look at example. We're going to do both these examples together. So Xavier saved money to purchase a bike that originally cost $250. The store discounted the bike by 20%. So what is the discounted price he will pay? So the first job, remember, we have to do is we have to find what 20% of that 250 is. So we're going to take our 250 by our percent. Now some of us, I know, like to go ahead and turn that percent into a decimal, and that's okay. If you don't, you can let your calculator do the work for you and divide by 100. So when I use that in my calculator, I get that 20% of $250 is $50. But we have to think, is that what the question's actually asking us? It says, what is the discounted price he will pay? So he's not paying $50. $50 is what he's saving. So we're thinking discount. You go into a store and you're saving money on something. We are subtracting the cost. You would be upset if that cashier added money to your cost. So we take the original and subtract it, which gives us $200 as the cost Xavier has to pay for the bike. And then last one. Kim and Stephen went to dinner. The price of the meals was $75. What is the amount of money they should leave if they want to leave an 18% tip? So we need to figure out what 18% of 75 is. So we're going to do that amount times the percent, 18 divided by 100. And so if I put that in my calculator, I do 75 times 18 divided by 100. Tells me that $13.50 is what 18% is. But once again, let's read the question. Did it want just the tip, or does it want the total amount? And it says, what is the amount of money they should leave if they want to leave the tip? So we need to get the total amount. So we have to take our tip plus the money and add them together, which will give us $88.50 is how much money they should leave for their meal. You are now ready to begin your practice problems.